Good morning. Your minister is here. Today I gained inspiration to talk about a little bit of politics and what's going on today through my devotional, which I read about 10 minutes ago. The devotional, written by David Jeremiah, is entitled Walking with God. So I give him all the credit for the words I'm about to read. It starts off with the title, Faith and Funds. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, and the glory, the victory, and the majesty. For all that you is in heaven and in earth is yours. And that comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 29, verse 11. The paragraph goes on to say, during the Great Recession that began in 2008, remember that? The government injected massive amount of money or credit into the economy in hopes of jumpstarting the economy. Jumpstarting the economy. Friends, I hope you remember how good that jumpstart was. The average citizen wondered, if the government is in debt, where does all this new stimulus money come from? Since ordinary citizens could not create new money. The government stimulus packages were confusing to many, and it still is to me. Where did this new money come from? That's a question we've all been asking, and in today's world, we're still asking it. While the technical answer to this question involves the Federal Reserve extending new lines of credit to member banks, there is a spiritual application to be gleaned. However, the money was created, measured, and accounted for. God owned it all. The Christian's hope should never ultimately be in the government's ability to change the money supply. Our hope is in the one who accomplishes his purposes on the earth through establishing and removing kings and their policies. After all, Jesus said, we cannot serve both God and money. Very famous quote out of the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24. When we serve God, we put our trust in for everything, including the money needed to live, in Him alone. Friends, I've had to be reminded of this recently. Your minister in a previous life worked very, very hard in his own business. I became somewhat well known in what I did, but I followed the money. This came at a detriment to my family, especially my children. I was chasing a false God, and I am here to tell you I was wrong. I've explained that to my children, my ex-wife, as well as friends. To all the people out there in my audience today, or in the future, do not chase the false god of money. Money is important. We do live here in this world, but we are not of this world. We are of His world. And ultimately, God does provide. Everything that happens, and I mean everything, is in the hands of God. He knows exactly what's going to happen long time ago, before any of us were ever thought to be part of this planet. Now, I was going to talk a little about what's happening in politics these days. Today's your day. Israel is under attack. It is God's land, given to the Jewish people to live in peace. Everyone else that is surrounding Israel are peoples who, for thousands of years, have been fighting Israel. And they've been fighting them over land and over what we'll call back then religion. Well, friends, since the land was given to the Jewish people by God, it is theirs. Those who don't quite understand that, I feel sorry for you. Let me put it to you this way. Israel is a peaceful nation. They are both secular and religious. Their culture is diverse, similar to ours, only in more of a religious type state. The Israelis are always on the defense. Their country is about 13 miles wide and surrounded by enemies. Now, if the United States was surrounded by enemies, say Canada was not our friend, or the Mexicans were not our friend, and I honestly sometimes wonder, because I'm a politics guy, we would sure as heck have armed troops on the border, just as Israel does, to protect its interests. I will take this one step further. Anthony Blinken, the other day, made a comment that our illustrious President Biden wants Ukraine in the NATO alliance. Now, here's a little piece of history. NATO was created 70 years ago to protect Europe from the invasion of communism, particularly the Russians, whom were our allies in World War II. Concurrently, the Warsaw Pact was created by the Russians so that there would be a buffer zone of countries between the West and the East. And that kept the peace for 80 years. There's something to be said about that. However, in the 90s, many of these countries became independent when the communist regime failed in Russia. Today, friends, there are specific rules for those who want to enter NATO. You have to have a strong army. You have to be able to produce enough GDP to contribute to your portion of the defense of NATO. Ukraine does not, and I repeat, does not meet either of those criteria. So our illustrious president and his thoughts that he's going to admit Ukraine into NATO is ludicrous. One step further, friends. We are fighting a proxy war. We should keep our troops at home as well as keeping our arms. We have no interest in Ukraine. They give us nothing. They were supposedly a fledgling democracy which was growing in nature. I give them credit for doing that. However, in recent days, the government, who has suspended its election, I do not believe is any more democratic. I want to talk about some other things as well. A few nights ago, while on a social media platform, in fact, this one, I was trying to respond to a friend whose grandchild is in a hospital, and I frankly don't know what's going on. I don't get to speak to them that often. They at one time were my group leader at church. I sent my condolences and regards and prayers. That was censored by the social media company. And it was Meta who owned it. I'm sick and tired of Meta. I'm sick and tired of Facebook, who owns Instagram. I'm sick and tired of the nonsense of political involvement where they do not belong. I'm a strong believer in the First Amendment, and that gives me the right to talk to you about religion, politics, and current events. The moment that that right is taken away, we have a tyrannical government. And it appears at this point, we're real close to it. So friends, I leave you with this. God is there to love you and me. But he also says that we must stick together as a block to preach the Bible, to bring the scriptures to those who do not know of them. We are to make disciples. However, we are also to protect ourselves. Jesus clearly stated that if you are a follower of me, your life will be difficult and you too will be persecuted. Well, it's happening now. Friends, get a hold of your elected officials. Get a hold of the officials who don't represent you. Anywhere in the country, if you don't like a policy, let them know that. Organize peacefully. Go out and let those people know that we are here and we are a voting bloc. Friends, I leave you with this prayer. God, please protect us today. Please keep us safe. Please give us the strength to follow your word and use your words in order to make good into this world. I ask for this through the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. It's Minister Tom. I say goodbye for today, but I will see you soon.